Hey guys, Chip here. So I'm really excited to share with you the all-new KitOps 3.0. It's a significant rewrite of the original KitOps and focuses on performance and ease of use. Plus, it has some really neat new features as well, and unlike previous versions, it now works in Blender 4.2.0 and greater. So as over 100,000 users already know, KitOps is the leading kitbashing add-on for Blender, and in many cases, it now is over 100 times faster than before. Plus, it plays nicer with everyone's add-ons. More on all that later. KitOps is a bit like Blender's own asset manager, only way more powerful. With it, you can do things Asset Manager can only hope to do, like automated booleans and adding materials to existing models and new material slots, and of course, much more. So let's first talk about performance. KitOps now has huge performance increases and works way better than before with HardOps and BoxCutter. And you can now host your inserts, which are KitOps compatible blend files, on networked folders, and things work lightning fast. Not to mention speed increases in just about every significant feature. Many third-party add-ons use a feature called depth graph, which is basically a continuous polling of background Blender processes. And as you can imagine, once you have lots of different add-ons all polling Blender for different events and all at the same time, things just slow down. Certainly for many add-ons, it just makes some things go easier. And that said, it does steal cycles from Blender. And KitOps was one of those add-ons. Not anymore. Our current KitOps team redesigned and rewrote large parts of KitOps, and it no longer requires any background polling. So now, of course, it doesn't conflict with other add-ons that do use this technique. We no longer have group mode and smart mode and have simplified KitOps greatly. Now you can just select an insert and move, duplicate, delete, array, mirror, align, or convert it to a mesh. The free version has all the features you've come to expect, whereas the pro version has a ton of extra features, including some great new workflow enhancements like the ability to merge materials and find duplicate textures and remap them no matter the name or location. And we're also adding 6 new sci-fi KPACKS that you can use to quickly generate all sorts of new sci-fi objects, including crates and control walls. And do it in a flash, just like these shown here. We'll go over these in a minute and show you how this is done. I should also mention that using design magic with KitOps is still a primary modeling non-destructive technique. While not only fast, it's also superb for client work, as you can quickly modify design iterations. And it's also used in the modeling of hundreds of 3D print models. Check out the links in the description for more information on Design Magic. And let's not forget, we have support for all our products on Discord and a $1 Patreon where we share many of our files. So let's get started and check out some of the new features of 3.0. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we can use the included sci-fi KPACKS to create this image, and that includes all the materials and the cutters and displays and graphics and decals and etc. It doesn't include the character, but you can get the same character posed in different ways on my $1 Patreon. Before we get started though, let me just talk about a couple things. First off, you might want to know the difference between KitOps Pro and KitOps Free. And so this web page I've created that'll actually explain the differences between these two products. And hopefully that helps you understand that. It's at the URL shown right here. Next, I want to mention that we have all new documentation for KitOps 3. And as you can see, it's again on a web page. It'll have some of the video manual and stuff like that. And I'll show you here in a second. That will be actually embedded here. And it's got a pretty good table of contents too. Definitely going to want to check that out. And that's again available at the URL shown. And then of course, we also have the KitOps video manual, right? And so this manual has a ton of table contents. So you basically can go through and find out anything you're looking for. So definitely worth checking that out as well. And that's again at that URL. So the first thing we're going to talk about is there is no more group or smart mode. When you add an insert, let's just grab this one and we'll add an insert here. You'll see that this one has 2 objects. And if you grab the actual parent, you're going to move it around. Remember, inserts have parents. If you grab the inside of it, it's going to move that off. And so if you want to grab the whole thing, you can do one of 2 things. You can either grab the parent or you can just grab any part of it and just say select insert, right? Once you've done that, once you've selected the insert, you can move it around. But keep in mind that you can grab any part of the insert and relocate it and it'll grab the whole insert wherever you want to, right? And that's true for just about all of these, like duplicate insert, you can grab that. And we'll just say, let's go to the Y. So we can fix it on the Y, or the X, just grab it on the X. So that's the key thing to remember, is that it's no longer necessary to have a group mode. Just use a select insert button, or you can also, check this out, you can remap it. So you can change the shortcut. And so I've actually mapped mine to Control-Shift-A, and it automatically selects the insert for me. So that's key thing to remember. Also, keep in mind that when you want to duplicate an insert or relocate an insert, you just, like I said, you just grab whatever part of it that you want, and it'll select the whole thing, right? So we're going to move this again. We said in the X direction, and that just works like that. So another interesting part is that you can also edit the insert. So whatever you've chosen up here, right? If I go into this and just say, I want to edit an insert, let's just grab any one of these inserts right here. Let's grab this, hit the edit insert. So this in Pro mode will actually open up a brand new instance of Blender. And this is really powerful. So now we have a brand new instance of Blender, as you can see. And now I can edit this insert from within this instance. So that's pretty neat. Remember that once I'm in factory mode, this is called factory mode because we're editing it, we have a completely different interface. And why does it know that it's in factory mode? Because this particular insert is in this path, and this path is actually part of a KPACK. KitOps is smart enough to understand that when an insert is being edited, it will check to see if it's in one of the existing registered KPACKs. If it is, it'll open it up in factory mode. So that's a real powerful tool also. So most of this other stuff you're familiar with. Let's talk a little bit about the modifiers as we can mirror stuff. We can basically array them. Let's see, let's move this over here and we'll say we'll array it on the X. This would be the X axis. Let's do 2 so we can see that. And I can move this back and forth and make it 3. And then remember, if we're going to delete an insert, we always want to delete the insert right here, right? We always use this button. That'll clear it off because just like a regular Boolean, if I come in here and I just say X and delete, I'm going to still have these holes in here. And why is that? Well, if we go into our modifiers, you'll see that they're still listed right here. They're still part of this difference modifier. So to fix that, you just go down to tools and you say clean Boolean modifiers, and that'll fix that automatically. If you forget and don't use the delete insert, that'll clean that right up. We now have create insert, create decal, create materials are all down here. Convert to mesh is down here too. You can see these are all right there. Of course, we can open the KPACK directory. So whatever's shown in here, we hit open the KPACK directory. It'll show you actually where that's located directly in your file system. We can convert existing Blender assets to KPACKS using these tools. And then we have this extra utilities, which is pretty cool. So let's just go up here and let's grab one of these new Sci-Fi KPACKS. I'm going to grab something like this and add that insert. We'll cut a hole here. We'll put another one over here like this, maybe. And let's grab one. Let's grab this one. And we'll put one right here. So as you can see, if I start selecting these, things get confusing pretty quickly. And so in this extra utilities, we have this toggle object display type. So when you do that, it'll toggle to wireframe, bounding box, and solid. So you can just walk through those, and that really helps. That's also Control-Alt-Shift-C. So whatever's selected, it'll toggle the object display type of that. We also have the ability to align vertices, right? So if I go in here and say 1, and let's say I want to take these 2 vertices, let's just go in here and let's take this, or these 2, this, and just move this off. Okay, so if I want to align these in the X, I can just come down here and say, I'll align them in the X, and I can drag them back down and snap them how I want to get it where I want. I can do X, Y, Z. And again, that has Control-Alt-X, Control-Alt-C, and Control-Alt-Z for those. And then we have clean duplicate materials. So this will actually look for duplicate materials in your scene and merge them all into one. This remap material images is real powerful. It'll actually look in every one of your materials, look for images in the material like grime or dirt or thumbprints or whatever. And if it finds duplicates, it'll remap the material automatically, and then it'll delete the unused images as well. So there's a lot of interesting tools. Set object origin for bottom for inserts is also another one. Anyway, that's really a quick look at some of the new features inside of KitOps 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and start to create that kind of sci-fi wall. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create this box, and I'm going to import a character just to get some scale on here. So I just pulled this character out. If you want this character, I've got a whole bunch of these guys over on my Patreon for $1. You can grab them there. And there's KPACK full. So next thing I'm going to do is I want to start adding some of these sci-fi shapers in here. So the idea being that what we're trying to do is we want to get the gross shapes out first things first, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm mirroring that insert, but you'll see when I get it close to each other, it's not working correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the mirror modifier, the KPACKS mirror, and I'm just going to bisect it. And when I do, that works great. So now I've got that. I set that for display level. Let's go ahead and add another shaper. This is another cutter. And again, put that one, I think we'll use another one similar to that on the bottom, but we're going to stretch it down a little bit so it's not quite as symmetrical. And again, the whole point of this is that we just want to start adding these shapers. This one is actually one going to actually cut off the corners of this thing. You can see it rounds the corners. And a lot of these Boolean negative inserts, you need to play around with them a little bit to get to where you like them. But remember, this is a completely non-destructive process. So it means that we keep changing up into the very last minute as we move forward. And so again, the goal is just to come up with some kind of shape that we're going to look at and say, yeah, I what's going on here. And keep in mind, you can also snap using the F key to snap to face, V key to snap to vertex, E key to snap to edge, EC to snap to the center of an edge. And that helps. And sometimes you just go into the actual positioning of the item. You just set it to 0 in the X, Y, so you can do that too if you need to. I don't really need to put it exactly in the 0. So again, there's another cutter that I'm just playing with. I've set this to use the local transform mode as that works in this case. Transform it locally. Sometimes when it's on this angle like that, it's easier to do that. Again, it's a little bit of just playing around, looking at things from different angles, trying to figure out what it is that you actually really. I should mention that this is sped up about 2.5 times, so it's going pretty quick. So what I just did there is I just like what I have, and I went ahead and converted the whole thing to mesh. So now I have a complete mesh that I can now start to add some of the details. So I go to the screens, and I'm going to add the screen detail. I'll go in here and I'll set the location to 0. So that's going to put the screen in there, and as you can see, that's what it looks like when it's rendered. And we're going to go into these materials. I want to add this one material. I really like this material, by the way. It's a simple edgeware material. It's very simple. It doesn't take a lot of resources, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add these little feet on the bottom here and just position them where I want them. And then once I get that done, I'll just go ahead and mirror them and move them out a little bit, get them where I like them. The next thing I want to do is I want to throw some parting lines on here. So this is a mirrored parting line. So that means I only have to edit one half of it. And the other one will automatically work. So I just go into edit mode and just grab these verts and just move them around and duplicate them. So I can just align them, use the align tools that we talked about earlier, extrude, grab a vert, hit the E for extrude and just drag it up and down. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to basically divide the geometry in a sensible way that looks interesting. I have to use the screw depth to actually get this thing to go all the way through. And that looks pretty good. Maybe I don't want to go all the way through there. So I'll keep playing around with these parting lines. I get something that I actually like. And one of the things that's interesting about them is that as you're creating them, you can actually just duplicate a vert and continue to work. So they don't need to be necessarily connected. See right there, I just duplicated that vert. EX to go ahead and move it down here, and EZ, and then another EX and all the way across. And so now we have that set up. Another thing I'll mention is a lot of times you don't really even need to turn on your Booleans for this. A lot of times you hide them, like I'm showing over there. I've got all the Booleans hidden in the modifiers so that I can just quickly work on these parting lines, so don't have to worry about having to do all the Boolean calculations, right? So here again, I duplicated one, and now I'm just going to do some more reliefs. And one thing that's nice about this particular insert is that you can grab any one of those verts and you can actually give it a vertex weight, and it'll actually bevel it. And so you can adjust it in the bevel. So I'm taking this now, I'm going to move it over here. And there we see that we've got some of these that actually I took off the mirror modifier in this one because I know that this is not a straight mirror thing, but eventually I come back and put it back on. So you'll see. But again, so we'll go in here. And again, we're just duplicating verts, extruding them, move them around. Again, here's what I'm showing using the mean bevel weight. And as you can see, it just adds a nice radius on there. So here we'll go ahead and add the mirror modifier and move it up to where we need it to be. So now it's on the left-hand side also. So that works good. Make sure that the depth is right. And there we go. So I'll just move all this out a little bit so it actually works on both sides. This is one of the fun parts for me, is just breaking up the design with parting lines. And usually you do all three sides, top, side, and front. And in this case, I'm not, because I'm not going to render this from the top. So you won't ever see the top on this. So I just didn't bother messing with the top, but you can see that works pretty good. Now it turns out that those parting lines are a little thick, and I eventually adjust those to make just a little bit thinner. And you can just do that with the solidify modifier inside that parting line. Now I'm just adding some controls, and remember, if you hold the shift key down while you add one, you can actually duplicate it as you're adding them. And here I'm using the array command in KitOps just to array those controls on the top. And again, it's real easy just to add controls and move them around, relocate, just click on it, say relocate it, rotate them by holding the middle mouse button and the Alt key and just rotating it around. So you can see the red. I turned off the flip faces off, turn that off. I thought I put those there, then when I rendered it, they certainly don't look good, the controls. So we'll just move those around and scale them, move them somewhere else. And remove that one over here. Yeah. And then we can just actually mirror that if we want to. There we go. Now the next thing, as we get these all positioned where we want them, I'll probably start adding some decals. And so the decals are pretty simple. Just add the inserts you want to, scale them down, move them where you want them. You want to make sure you're in material preview when you're doing this. Anyway, so I'm just going to move these around and just grab a few of these and just drag them in there. And don't forget, you can take any PNG and create a decal out of it. And you can decay them and add distress to them and all kinds of things in the actual material. And you can change the color and make them emissive and all that. So this is really fun. This is actually using a geometry node cable, right? So I'm going to basically position this in here and just put it where I want it to locate. So here, we're just going to keep, again, we're going to use that same technique we were using before, where we're just going in and dragging a vertice and extruding it and continue to do that and moving it around to where we think it's going to be correct. There we go. Move it down here, over here. Notice how wide the bottom of that is. That's a function of the geometry node, and it's called the end pinch. You can adjust that. We'll do that here in just a minute. But again, so I'm moving these around, getting them all these cables. I can also adjust the number of cables, the radius of the cables, the spread, how far they're apart from each other. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. So it's pretty neat. Yeah. So probably at this pretty soon, start looking at going into the pinch control to try and get that from getting too big here. And there it is. So we'll just adjust that pinch. You can see they start getting down, and then we'll just adjust the spread a little bit, get a little larger. The materials actually automatically are randomized, and you can adjust those in Shader Editor. I went ahead and mirrored this, but when I looked at it, I thought, nah, it doesn't really work. Thought it might be cool, but doesn't really. We end up removing that at the end of the day. Here we are moving some more objects around. We duplicated that one, just moved it around. There's our cables, and you can see that just looks stupid. So we'll go ahead and just, here I'm trying to fix it, but I'm realizing pretty fast that, yeah, this is not a solution that's going to really work very well. But I do like the fact that they can go inside that little bar on the outside. So here we go. We're just going to cut one of those out, just remove the mirror. The KitOps mirror. Okay, now here's another set of cables, and this is a different set of geometry node cables. And again, it comes with it. What I'm going to do is just go in here and set these up to the size we want and the diameter we want. And we'll just move these around to where we think they should be. And as you can see, they're slanted right now. And we just need to go in here and just adjust the rotation, get the rotation correct. Once we get the rotation correct, we're in good shape. So let's put those over here, stick them up in here, and then we can adjust the droop, the low droop and the high droop, and the radius of the cables and how many cables there are and all of that. So that's it's fun to play with. And you can just continue to add these all day long. And they do add something to the sci-fi scene. You can droop them all over the place. And we'll just add a few more decals. So I think you're getting the idea that the rendering was set up very simply using cycles and a shadow catcher. And that's really all we did with the rendering. I'm not going to go over that right now, but you can see here, those are showing the colors of the cables. So I just adjusted, there's a red one and some gray ones and all that. And so you can play with that all day long too. So anyway, so that's really it. I hope that you enjoyed this preview, or this, I guess it's a promo of KitOps 3. And if you're interested, check it out on our Blender Market or Gumroad. Thanks for watching. See you. Bye.